Welcome to Short Times. We will go through the adventures of Baron Munchausen from 1988 today. Terry Gilliam's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen is among the greatest of all fantasy films, brought to life through the director's layered sensory stimulation and visual luster. This filmic storybook follows the titular aged hero and a young girl, gallivanting about in a series of tall tales, their journey returning adult viewers to their childhood and taking children on a fantastical escapade beyond their dreams. In the late 18th century, so let's get into the story. The Age of Reason, on a Wednesday, cannons roar and blood is spilled as the Turks lay waste to a declining European stronghold. The Henry Salt and Son Players perform The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, a joyful, humorous musical that is not done well in the dilapidated Theatre Royal. The performance is not as successful as they had intended. There were a few technical problems. Later, as the second act starts, a strange outsider yells at the stage. The man claims to be the real Baron and says he doesn't want his life story made fun of. The real Baron attracts the house's attention by telling a story about one of his adventures in flashback. His story begins in the palace of the Grand Sultan. The Grand Sultan makes a life or death wager with the Baron there, threatening to have him beheaded if he cannot deliver the best wine from the imperial cellar of Vienna within an hour, with the Empress's approval. If Munchausen succeeds, he can take as many treasures from the palace as the strongest man can take. Baron somehow won and his life was saved by his team. The Baron has a unique group of men at his hands. Among them is Berthold, a runner who moves so quickly on foot that he needs to wear lead irons shackled to his ankles all the time to prevent him from defying gravity. Gus is a small man with miles-long hearing who has the power to blow down an entire forest with a single breath. Strongman Albrecht, who is capable of lifting loads many times his own body weight. Also, Adolphus has such keen eyesight that he can hit a target from a great distance away. When the gun interrupts the story of the old Baron, the importance of saving the city overshadows the show. The Baron wanders about backstage with the intention of dying, but is persuaded to live when Sally Salt, the young daughter of the theater company's director, questions him in an exuberantly joyful way, claiming that only he is capable of saving the city. In a hot air balloon made of women's undergarments, the Baron crosses the city walls to escape. Sally was stowing away with him. The balloon expedition continues to the moon, where the Baron, energized by the escape, meets up with Berthold, an old friend, but upsets the Moon King, who holds the Baron responsible for his previous relationship with the Queen of the Moon. The trio returns to Earth after a botched moon escape, where they are kindly welcomed by the Roman god Vulcan and find Albrecht. The Baron and the goddess Venus, Vulcan's wife, make an attempt at a love interlude by strolling in the air, but this ends the hospitality, and Vulcan banishes the now foursome to the South Seas from his kingdom after they were swallowed by a huge marine animal. The explorers find Adolphus, Gustavus, and Bucephalus, the Baron's loyal horse. When the Baron finally decides to flee by blowing a modicum of snuff into the sea creature's vacuum belly, the sea creature sneezes the heroes out via its whale-like blowhole. After the Baron shoves with the conflicting desires of heroism and a quiet death, the Turkish army is found on land, but the Baron's allies are now too old and worn out to resist the Turk as they once did. The Baron gives them strong directions, but to no use. He walks off with the intention of turning himself in to the Turk and to Jackson, but his allies join together to save both the Baron and the city. At the March for the City celebration, Jackson executed Baron. An emotional funeral is held, but the accusations imply that it is just the concluding scene of another story that Baron presents to the same viewers that saw the show earlier in the film. The Baron calls the above quote just one of the many times I have faced my death, and concludes the story by saying, "Every man can live a happily ever after life." The final mystery shows that the town was actually saved, even though the events of the battle seem to take place in the story, and not in the film. The Baron rides Bucephalus. As the sun breaks through the clouds, we see the Baron and Bucephalus disappear, and the score rolls along to the triumphant music.